Want unbreakable ransomware protection while cutting storage costs in half or more? Myota's patented technology encrypts, shards, and spreads your data across multiple locations, guaranteeing security and recovery against cyber attacks. Try it free at myota.io. That's myota.io. Welcome back to another episode of Data Protection Gumbo, everyone. I am honored and privileged to have Gorkem Ercan, who is the CTO and founding distinguished engineer at Jozu, on the Gumbo. So, Gorkem, welcome to the Gumbo. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Start off by giving us some information about Jozu, if you don't mind.
Jozu is a startup that is focused on the platform engineering, MLOps, DevOps part of AI and ML applications. Basically, our goal is to make it easy for the enterprises to adopt AI and ML into their applications. Our main focus is to make it easier for the data science and application teams and the SREs, platform engineering teams, to be able to do handovers of AI ML artifacts to each other and finally take that into production more efficiently.
And I guess, how long have you been in the DevOps industry and also working on some of the challenges that developers are kind of struggling through today?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry for over 20 years, and most of that is with developer tools. So before founding Jozu, I was part of the Red Hat's developer tools team. I was a distinguished engineer with Red Hat, and some of the tools that we have contributed to, because, well, open source tools, is towards DevOps, DevSecOps, like Argo CD, Tecton. We did a lot of work around Jenkins back in the day. But I have been even before Red Hat, most of my life, I have worked on runtimes and developer tools.
So your 20-year experience and just overall vision into kind of what you've seen being a distinguished engineer, can you tell us some of the key challenges that you've encountered, especially when we're talking, using that hot buzzword today, integrating AI and also machine learning into DevOps workflows?
For most companies, it is actually a challenge to be able to do the regular or the normal applications without the edit struggles of AI and ML. The main challenges that comes with AI and ML is, the first one is you are actually introducing a new role into your team, or a new role to your organization, depending on how you're organized, right? You have these data scientists who are working with AI and ML projects, and what they do is, they work heavily with your data. They train your, either using a base model or some other technique to create a model. And once they are done, they are not the ones that are actually integrating these artifacts into your applications. They are not the ones that are integrating these artifacts to your CI/CD pipelines, your DevOps or your DevSecOps, right? So, and that's challenge one, because now you are talking about different teams, different people. So, and to make matters a little bit worse, the data scientists have very limited experience with things like Docker containers, DevSecOps, and so on and so forth. So it's one of those things they would, rightly so, rather not touch. So that's challenge one. The second challenge is the other nature of AI ML artifacts. When you're doing an application, your code is on your Git repository, and then you're going to run your CI/CD pipeline, And you can actually add a lot of things to your CI/CD pipeline that makes it possible for you to DevOps, DevSecOps, and deploy to multiple targets. And these are all known patterns. Essentially, it's something that you can do because you know that the version of the moment that you put the version tag or SHA, whatever your pattern is, to your code, you know that it is going to end up in a very deterministic way on production. Like the path from your putting your version to your code and when it ends up in production is almost a straight line, maybe with some parallels. With AI, that's not the case because you put something on your Git repository, you put a version number to your code, but that doesn't actually tell you a lot about your model because your model is actually your code plus your data. Mm-hmm. So like the whole cycle starts where the breaks from the start because your versioning system now needs to encounter the additional artifacts like the data sets, like the parameters, because those actually change the outcome of the model training, or they may change the outcome of the evaluation. They may change the outcome of the inference. So I think that's one of the first things. I think that's why we actually, for that reason, we started with creating an open source project called KitOps.ml. Mm-hmm. And what
KitOps?
KitOps, yeah.
Okay.
It's like GitOps, but with a kit. And what KitOps.ml does is it introduces a new artifact called model kits. Mm-hmm. Model kits is essentially an artifact that can create an immutable version of your code, your data set, your documentation, and your parameters. So with that, once you create a model kit, and push that into an OCI registry, which is a container registry essentially. But model kits are not containers, they are artifacts of their own. So once you push that to an OCI registry, a container registry, it's immutable. You cannot change it. You can add signatures to it. You can add SBOMs and similar things for attestation and provenance, but you cannot change it. Once you do that, you know that, oh, this is the data set that I have used with this code to train this model. Okay. And you can always answer that. So, and now you have an artifact that you can trust to move along your workflow. So this is what we started with. KitOps.ml is where you can get information about the project. We are in the process of moving the project under the C and CF umbrella, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation umbrella. So it will be sitting side by side with other cloud native tools. So we're really excited about that. But when I talked about the earlier applications and microservices, the workflow is almost linear. But with AI and ML, it's not. There's always, oh, I did the training, but is it good enough? Then you have an evaluation cycle, which may end up you going back. And then you do another evaluation cycle and then another one, the classic experimentation. And then once you're in production, the live data may eventually drift and causes you to retrain. So you need observability all the time. That basically triggers this whole life cycle or workflow from the start.
Let me try to unpack that. So
yep.
Earlier you mentioned data scientists, and I guess data scientists, they are part of the equation as far as having to interact with the data because they need it in order to analyze it and help make sense so the business can understand whatever they need in order to kind of help the business be successful in the future as well. Just maybe one point on data scientists. Are you seeing How is that market looking for data scientists? Is that something that's growing or decreasing? Because I'm a little curious about data scientists. I hadn't heard about it in a while because I know there's a lot of layoffs, and I also read a study about jobs that are in high demand right now, and there's a tech recession that's going on. So can you speak a little bit to data scientists right now?
So I think they are on demand in the sense that most of the projects that we have been encountering in enterprises has been either about AI ML adoption
Mm-hmm.
or had an AI ML part in it. And most of the AI ML adoption and AI ML projects requires the involvement of data scientists because if nothing else, you need to be able to identify the correct sets of data in your organization.
Okay.
But one of the things that this change also introduced is most organizations started to realize that they have been doing a horrible job keeping their data. Like, you may have data, but how you keep it, how you organize it, actually affects your success with AI ML as well. So now that they actually need to go beyond your basic reporting with the data, they are now also doing projects that organizes their data better as well.
You also mentioned, I guess, having this data or having these artifacts. I think that's what you said, artifacts, immutable, right?
Yeah.
What's the importance of that? And I know there's a security angle to that, but why is that so important for the Gumbo listeners to understand and maybe also incorporate that into their learnings?
Yeah. So let me give an example for that. So we actually had a customer who had a small number of models that they were training themselves. These are not even LLMs. These are your classic predictive machine learning models that they were doing. One of the ways that they were tracking it, so they had what they were doing is they were creating a data set out of their data and train the model using this data set, and then record the data set, essentially S3 bucket address, in a spreadsheet. And then when they do evaluations, they would use a second data set and record that as well, and they record the results. And this is essentially all happening on an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So what happened to them, as you may imagine,
It already doesn't sound good.
Yeah, it already doesn't. Yeah, I mean, when you're trying to do this, perhaps once in a month in a very limited number of models, that works. But then you try to do this more often and with more number of models, that starts to crumble. And it did. They actually had a case where they recorded the data set incorrectly, did their evaluation with the right data set, but training with the wrong data set, and ended up with a result that was completely unexpected for them. Eventually, someone noticed the mistake by luck, I would say, before it went to production, and then that's when we got the call of, yeah, you know what? We got to know what data set trained this and what data set is going to evaluate this. Like, we need an immutable so that nobody can make this mistake. Our tools actually put that data into, it's not a human, it's a tool that puts the data, this relationship, into an immutable storage. And so I think that was a very good case, and it's a very basic, understandable case of why you want to have this immutable packaging.
You mentioned KitOps, KITOPS, right?
That's right.
And so that's a project. So you've been going through the process with CNCF to, I guess, get that qualified, or integrated into whatever their process is. It's pretty lengthy. I do know that.
We are now a candidate for the sandbox, and I'm hoping early next year we will be part of the CNCF sandbox projects.
Okay. Awesome and fantastic, and I'm sure you've been a part of. I'm just kind of getting a little off the subject of some of the technical details, but kind of getting a little light and fun here. So KubeCon, right? Did you go to the previous KubeCon?
Yes, the
and where
Salt
was
Lake
it?
City KubeCon.
Okay. Salt Lake City. And so how was the excitement there? Because I didn't get a chance to go. I went to the one in Amsterdam a couple of years ago, and that was the last one that I was able to attend.
Yeah, so I actually had a talk at the KubeCon before that, the one in Chicago. So I can actually do a comparison with the last two. So for me this year, there was a bit of more jolt of excitement in KubeCon. That's how it felt. I think AI and ML is affecting a lot of the cloud native parts and projects and bringing in new use cases, requirements, and new people to the projects so that they are able to do AI ML on cloud native. Like I would say a big or all of the AI and ML happens on cloud native projects at this point. Like Kubernetes is almost the de facto place to run these workloads. So I saw a lot of jolt coming in to the community from that. So compared to Chicago, I think Salt Lake was much exciting.
And it's coming to Atlanta too, right? I think I read that.
That's right. Next year, yeah.
Okay, I need to be prepared for that since it'll be in my backyard. Really excited about that. And also one more question before we close out here, Gorkem. Where do you see the future of DevOps and shifting left and CI/CD pipelines and kind of the fate of developers, let's say in 2025 rolling into 2026?
I think we're going to see more flexibility introduced into CI and CD because we need to accommodate for new artifact types, new roles in the teams. I think that is coming in. The AI agents is interesting. I can see them playing a role in CI and CD systems. However, the CI and CD systems are so different than each other, and there are so many fragmented ways of doing and fragmented tools out there. I think that's going to be either start as a custom thing or go slowly. So that's how I see it going for the next year or two, maybe. Beyond that, it's anyone's guess.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Do you mind giving the Gumbo listeners some information about maybe taking a look at KitOps and also Jozu?
Yeah. So if you want to, just kick the tires with KitOps, the website is KitOps.ml, and you can find all the information, including all the tooling and CLI that is associated with it. And Jozu is jozu.com. That's JOZU.com. And I'm Gorkem at jozu.com.
All right, and we may have to show the blooper reel of me trying to pronounce some things earlier before we even started. I don't know if I'll do that or not, but definitely been a pleasure. And I do want to let all the Gumbo listeners know, if you are new to the podcast, we do have a YouTube channel as well. We only have 60-something subscribers, so we are trying to get those numbers up. So please go take a look, share, hit the thumbs up button as well on YouTube, and check out our Backup and Recovery Professionals LinkedIn group. So there's 26,000 people in that group, so a lot of great conversations that we're having around DevOps and backup, recovery, storage, cloud, Bitcoin, blockchain, all of the above. So Gorkem, thank you again for being a guest right here on Data Protection Gumbo.
Yeah, thanks for having me.